Welcome, everybody. Greetings from around the world. I know we have people down under in Australia, New Zealand, Singapore. Not sure that we have so many people in Europe right now. It's a little late, but we do have people all over North America as well and South America. So, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here today, and it's my pleasure and honor to welcome a gentleman who's become a dear friend and a gentleman who's helped me become a better human. Roger Love. So, Roger, welcome to the NuCalm family and welcome to tonight's webinar.
They say you can't choose your family, and I believe I've made an excellent choice, even with that saying.
So, before we get started, we're going to get a little scientific tonight, but not too much. But before we get started, many of the folks are very familiar with NuCalm on this call, and many of the folks are familiar with you, but some aren't. So why don't you start, Roger, with giving us a little background of who you are and your magnificent journey.
Awesome. I won't go all the way back to birth. I'll start when I was a little kid, and if ever I wasn't feeling happy, I would sing. I certainly didn't understand the science of that or the science of anything, but I did understand that when I opened up my mouth and I belted out a tune, whatever emotions I was feeling before that were negative suddenly flew out the window and I felt happy. So it's only fitting that so many decades later I get to be friends with and collaborate with NuCalm, who has finally understands and has been able to teach me and millions of other people how the voice and sound changes what's happening inside your body, inside your brain. But my story was literally, like I said, I was just a kid who loved singing. And I, at 13, convinced my parents to let me go to the most famous singing teacher in the world because he had all the biggest stars. And he took me on as a student. And I was learning to sing. That was my whole life. At 16, he left. I was 16. He was 50 something. He left for Canada to teach a master class. And he said, "Would you like to come over and teach my students after school because I don't have anyone to teach them?" Again, I'm 16. His students, the Jacksons, Earth, Wind and Fire, Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, Barbara Streisand, the biggest of the biggest singers in the world. I said, "Sure, I'll come over after school on Monday," having no pre-knowledge of how to teach anybody anything. I was just trying to be a good student. So I show up Monday after school. My first student is Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, who is now on the other side of a piano from me, looking at a 16-year-old. I am thinking, this is not going to turn out well. But I said to Brian, not thinking anything else, "Brian, tell me what problems you're having with your voice." And then he said, "I can only sing one night in concert, and the second night I'm already hoarse." I said, "Great, I can fix that." And then I started playing the exercises and I took him through the only thing I knew, the vocal warm-ups. And I actually found things in his voice that were creating pressure and strain. Fast forward, my teacher brings me in as a junior partner. At 16 and a half, I'm the number 2 man in the most famous voice studio in the world. Kept going to school, college, everything. But over the 17 years he and I were partners, I taught singer after singer after singer. And 17 years later, I left and I started working with speakers. People like Tony Robbins started coming to me, and actors, superstar actors started coming to me to work on their speaking voice. And in the 17 years, I realized that I could help people open up their mouths and create sounds that would influence millions and millions of people. And I set out to being able to do the same thing for the speaking voice. Because that has been my trek, my journey, my passion for so many years. To train the speaking voice so that the sounds that are coming out of your mouth would actually make you healthy, wealthy, and smarter. Long story short.
That's a short story that could extend for hours. That's amazing. I can't imagine being 60. I can't imagine what Brian Wilson was thinking. Fortunately, you had the chutzpah to just do what you knew and stay in your lane because that's quite intimidating. So tonight we're celebrating a collaboration. And our company's been around for 35 years, and we've been commercially selling NuCalm for 16. And in this journey, we have had three collaborations, including Roger. We started 11 years ago. Tony got introduced to NuCalm through his doctor, and we did our first collaboration, Certainty, and then Gratitude with training the Washington Capitals and the Golden State Warriors. So we first launched Ignite, which amplifies your brain to a high intensity peak performance with a strong physics platform, kind of an elevated crescendo music composition, and Tony. That was in 2017, but we didn't launch it to the public till 2021.
Hmm.
So the public was not aware that we had this collaborative superpower. In 2022, we launched Kwik State with Jim Kwik. So we had Tony, who's a master in energy and state, and then we had Jim, who's a master in your brain. Last year, we launched two new tracks with Tony, Priming and Priming Plus, to begin your day. And then we started taking tracks from Kwik State and new tracks and putting them in. So over the course of time, we've had two significant collaborations with two people that I admire and respect and who are power users of NuCalm. And then I get introduced to Roger through one of my favorite stockholders in our company. And it's really a marriage made in heaven. It was so easy for us to collaborate. I've learned so much from you about voice, air, nasality, Adam's apple positioning, tone, pitch, monotone, speed, how much information to share at a time. So this collaboration does two things. One, it elucidates Roger's world-class voice coaching. There's nobody better in the world. And it comes to you on an app in your pocket. You take it out and you have Roger at your discretion, press play. Furthermore, because doing the exercise by themselves has a tremendous amount of merit, but when we add in physics and we command the state that we want you to be in, we're elevating the actual experience. And this track was unique for us, Roger, because the one thing we did not want to do was interfere with the master who's helping his students master their voice. And you have to hear with great clarity your voice and then my voice doing the exercise. So this was a dance. We danced in the ethers to try to figure out where and how we could contribute. And we put 40 hertz, which is the high elevation of brainwave function, which creates a mental acuity and an energy. But there's such subtleties in here. So what do we have, Roger, in the new track that we launched today around 1 o'clock? Voice coaching with Roger Love. How would you explain this new track?
Beautiful. First, let me touch on a couple of things that you've said. I'm a big family guy, and you're part of my new family. And this collaboration, the other two collaborations that you had, it's only fitting that Tony Robbins was one of my first speaking students. And he's been my student for 30 some odd years. And your other collaborator, Jim Kwik, has also been my student for at least 10 years. And so this is family getting closer. And and what was so exciting and why I even thought this would be an amazing idea before you agreed with me was that everything that NuCalm's been doing has been about having people listen to sounds, and those sounds affect their brain, their body, all positive. And I said, Jim, why don't we do something with the people making sounds, creating their own frequencies, their own hertz, their own sounds that are vibrating in their own bodies, because I spent a lifetime helping people make the sounds. And why don't we combine people actively not only listening to sounds that change their brains, but making the sounds that change the brains? And so, thank you for being insightful enough to realize that that would be an elevated experience, because the combination of you making the sounds, your voice is actually healing you, not just listening. Your voice is part of the healing process. Your voice is helping you change your state. Your voice is helping you create confidence, certainty, excitement. So, so I'm very excited about that. And I've always felt that it's impossible to really change someone's voice unless you change their physiology and you change their mindset. Because people are believing all over the world that they were born with the voice that they have. And they don't generally like the way that they sound. When people hear themselves back on a recording, they shudder and they think, ugh, that's not me. I don't sound like that. Who is that person? And so, but then people are still stuck with that. So that voice that you hear is the voice that is presenting you to the world. It's the voice everyone is listening to you. It's the voice that is your brand. It's the voice that's either creating conversations and relationships that you need to have a better life, to be more successful in personal and business, or it's making you unhealthy, unhappy, and disconnected from everyone. I realized a long time ago that voice was the ultimate makeover you could offer someone. Because when you change somebody's voice, you do change their physiology, you do change their mindset. And then with that new voice, they decide how they communicate their way into happiness, health, success, and all the great things. So what's coming together here is a first ever. It's a first ever. It's think of meditation times a million. You're trying to come up with the perfect mantra. I'm giving you the sounds you should make, matched with the sounds and the neuroscience to help put your brain in a place where you'll be calm, confident, powerful, influential, happy, and healthy. This is, to me, this is a marriage made in absolute heaven.
It is. And I can tell the audience that after 6 months of working with you, there's been a significant shift in my self-awareness of my voice, my ability to exude the information I want to share. And for me, most importantly, I get so excited. Who knew you could get excited talking about the brain? But I do. And when I get excited, the pace of my words occur too quickly. So one of the
Mm.
first things you shared with me is say, Jim, I love what you're telling me. And there's a lot of information. But do you think maybe pausing and allowing my brain to accept the information in packets may be worthwhile? Do you think just sucking from a fire hose for 45 minutes is an acceptable learning path? And I thought, no, it's not at all, because the pace and the tone. Also, I'm a chest voice person, lower voice. And then when I'm speaking in the medical community, lecturing to doctors, it wasn't about animation. Animation seems like hyperbole. So I almost developed this monotone, didactic learning vocalization. But you have helped me to understand breath. I wasn't speaking with my breath, the nasality, the Adam's apple position. So can you share with the audience first the difference, because they're going to learn this as they're using this product on a daily basis, the difference between the chest voice, the mid voice, and
Perfect. When I was a singing coach, I still teach singers. I still teach people like John Mayer and Selena Gomez and lots of famous singers. But when I was primarily a singing coach, when a singer comes to a voice coach, they want to be able to sing from low to high, all the way up and down the range. They want to be able to sing any note that they can without any pressure, and they want to be able to do it every day and every night so they can be on tour, make records, and sell t-shirts. So this idea of building out the voice like it's an instrument that goes from low to high, that really revolutionized the way that my students were singing. I could give them that effortless voice, any sound they wanted to make without any pressure, without any strain. And then when speakers started coming to me, I looked at everything I had done with singing, and I realized that speaking and singing were basically the same thing, and that humans had separated them dramatically. We sing and we have melody. We sing low, we sing high. We have all of this emotion in singing, and people have learned to speak like this. Yeah, I'm an influencer. I'm a reality TV star, and I don't care about melody. I don't care about volume. I'm just, it's about the words. I think it's about the words, and maybe I can really influence and blah, blah, blah. So all of the music, all of the emotion has actually been drained from people who are speaking. The world is full of, the level of speaking has gone lower and lower and lower. Email started it, texts. How do you know how somebody feels? You read their text, but you don't know how they feel. So how are they helping you? Oh, they throw in an emoji. Well, now I'm supposed to know how they feel. I have text and I have a smiley face emoji. Maybe they're happy. But humans have become horrible communicators. We don't speak with emotion. We don't have any of the music. And we know what music does to the brain. We know there's so much science of what music does to the brain. Anyways, I teach people, speakers now, not just singers, to have full use of their instrument, their vocal instrument, from lows to highs, and teach them that there are actually three voices in the human voice. There's a voice down low that most of you know about. It's called chest voice. If you put your hand down the base part of your neck right here, sort of wrap it around there and say, I can, Roger. Go ahead.
I can, Roger.
You feel your index finger and your thumb vibrate. This part of your body kind of vibrates. So that voice is called chest voice because it feels like it vibrates there. Put your hand back. Say, wee.
Wee-hee.
Close enough. That didn't make your finger and your thumb vibrate, did it? That feels like it's way up here. That's called head voice because it feels like it vibrates someplace above your chest. And so singers and speakers who only think that there's two voices, chest voice and head voice, when they try to go from the low to the high, it sounds like this. Ah, break. Ah, another break. Ah, because you can't connect your chest and head. There's another voice called middle voice that's supposed to live in between. And when you have middle, you can go ah, all the way up and down the range, no pressure and strain. You say to me, Roger, how's that going to help me as a speaker? I understand that would help singers, but I don't want to cover all that range. I tell you that the chest voice has its own sounds that are already perceived as emotions. When you're in your chest voice and making those sounds, people are perceiving you to be strong and powerful and learned and important and powerful. And when you're in the middle voice, people are feeling the sounds of excitement and surprise and energy. And when you're in head voice, people are feeling emotions when they hear those sounds of beauty and empathy and sweetness and kindness. And that to be a great speaker, to be a great human, to be successful, you need all of the range because it's filled with the sounds of emotion. And that's how we're supposed to communicate with other people. Emotion to emotion, sound to sound. So that's what I teach to start. I build an instrument. You come to me, you want to buy a piano? I'm not trying to sell you a piano with 3 keys at a good deal. I'm trying to sell you a piano with 88 keys. Maybe you won't hit all of them when you play them, but I'm going to build your instrument. With that instrument, you'll be able to turn your voice into an influence connection machine that creates conversations that lead to relationships that create the life that you want.
How does this connect to breath? I think I used to sing in a band and I used to struggle with chest voice to high. And I used to be raspy and a lot of pressure. And I didn't like it, didn't feel good. I was never comfortable. Um, but when I do the exercises that everyone's going to get to do if you haven't already tried it, there's a breath, there's a command that I'm not familiar with. And today I'm blessed to have that. I'm not out of breath. I'm not struggling. I love this command. So, how does the breath work throughout this process?
First of all, I forgot that you were in NSYNC. I didn't recognize you because you're all grown up. And I didn't see your feet, so I didn't know you were dancing. So, congratulations on your prior band success. Okay.
Yes.
Second of all, most people, when they breathe, they're not using breath to create the volumes and the melodies and the beauty in the voice. Basically, people are holding their breaths and talking like this. It's like they're using their inner voice instead of their outside voice. They're holding their breath, and then the sounds that are coming out are suffering. They're weak and timid and shy, and they're not affecting people because there's no breath attached. What you want to do when you speak is you want to have air come out of your mouth, solid stream of air, and the words ride out on it. And where do they go after the solid air with words? Where does it go? It vibrates the bodies of the people you're speaking to. So when you're speaking with the right amount of air, speaking becomes a physical connection. Your sound is vibrating their bodies. They feel you. They don't just hear you. But when you're holding your breath, sound trickles out of your mouth and dissipates into the air. So you're not even physically connected with the people, let alone they're having trouble hearing you. So here's a simple fix. How do you know if you're holding your breath when you breathe? Everybody put their hands on their tummies. Okay? Now, count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Count. 1, 2, go.
Three, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I
Great.
ran out of breath.
Anyone that just did that in the listening audience, my new friends, if your stomach was stationary, you're holding your breath. The only way you can get air effectively out from the lungs to the vocal cords to the people who want to hear you is to only speak while your stomach is coming in. And hardly anyone does that. I teach people to learn that they breathe in through their nose, they pretend that there's a balloon in their tummies, so the tummy comes forward, and then the whole time I'm speaking, my stomach is slowly coming back in. That's like an accelerator pedal on the car that pushes just the right amount of gas to the engine, just the right amount of air to the vocal cords, so that the sound comes pouring out without you straining and struggling and creating any tension or pressure. So unless you're speaking while your stomach is coming in, there's no way to have an amazing voice. That's just one of the little tricks and tips and secrets that you'll learn with the warm-ups.
Now, also, as you go through the warm up,
Mhm.
if I'm very present and I'm paying really close attention to all of it, I actually feel a state of really deep relaxation and feel more grounded.
Yes, and also a state of elation because you're actually releasing dopamine
Yeah.
into your brain and it is making you happier. And the sounds that I'm having you do are affecting that as well. Most people have no idea that the sounds that are coming out are making them depressed, making them happy, making them excited, that the sounds they're listening to from their own mouths are affecting their moods. but it's true. In the same way you go to a concert and the artist gets up and they're playing an up-tempo song and you can't wait to jump up on the chair and shout woo woo woo, and then you get tired because you're getting older and you have to sit down, and thank God they're playing a ballad now, a lovely ballad. I can just sit here. I don't have to try to look over the person who's taller than me in front of me. I can relax and they're playing a ballad, and the melodies are so specific in the ballad. They're minor melodies. They're certain melodies that we've learned in music make things sadder, as opposed to certain melodies that we've learned in music that make people happy. I always say this. Check this out. Do you want to go to the movies?
No.
Do you want to go? I'd be too scared to go to the movies with you, Roger. Do you want to go to the movies? Of course. I know it's G-rated. I'll bring the kids. I'll pay for the popcorn. So you have to learn the sounds of happy, the sounds of grateful, the sounds of intelligence. There are sounds that the most successful and healthy people in the world are making, and that's what made them happy, healthy, and successful. And you can learn those sounds no matter what. So many people think that Mother Nature just specifically hated them and gave them a voice that sounds like, my grandmother sound like this. No, I don't want to eat that. Let's eat grandmother, comma, problem. Let's eat grandma. Right? So you think you're stuck with it. And I can show you in seconds how to go from a voice that you hate and nobody else really likes to a voice that you start to love, to a voice that sounds good, to a voice that you like listening to, but more importantly, to a voice that other people like listening to. I taught you something, Jimmy, and you said it was so smart and so simple. Your voice is a gift. It's not for you. You're supposed to learn how to use it, and then you're supposed to give it away. What does that mean? That means that when you speak, sound goes this way. So is it for you? No, your ears are over here. You got left behind in the dust. The sound is going out that way. So you better package the sound in a way that they want to hear it. It's not about what you want to hear. It's what gift you can give everyone else who listens to you so that they feel something, so they're moved emotionally.
Where does nasal challenges come from?
Nasal challenges come from the fact that most people allow their Adam's apple to go up really high when they speak, and they think that that's just them. They have a nasal voice, come closer to me and kiss me, and they don't understand why people don't come closer to kiss them because they have a nasal voice, and they think maybe that person has a cold or something, sinus problem. Anyways, it comes from air being directed to a nice open throat into the mouth and then bouncing into the cheeks, as opposed to your larynx being up, your Adam's apple being up, and it directs the air above the soft palate towards the sinuses. I can't tell you how easy it is to take someone who sounds nasal, show them that they can lower their Adam's apple. Watch this. La 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 la.
La 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 la. I just had my Adam's apple down, not because I was a freak in a circus who learned how to sword swallow, but because I learned that if I lower my tongue, my Adam's apple goes down, which opens up the back part of the throat, which then sends all this extra air into my cheeks, and the sound bounces into my cheeks.
So instead of sounding like this,
All of a sudden, I sound like this. My throat's open, the air's flowing, my tummy's coming in, and I've lost the nasality. Nasality is about a 15-second fix to a problem that most people think is a lifetime curse from Mother Nature.
And it's not only the person who has the nasal voice, but everybody in their life would be like, what happened? Did you get a deviated septum surgery? I mean, what's going on here?
What's going on? Again, your voice is a gift. It's that most people are packaging that gift in really crummy, smelly old newspaper, and you should package it in a beautiful box with ribbon and a bow, and then people might really love the gift of you and your voice.
It is true psychologically. If you have a terrible voice and it becomes an anchor for your own insecurity to the world, it's a reinforcing cycle of people don't want to be around me therefore I'm not good enough. And it's all because they haven't paid any attention to their voice or that they've understood that it is an instrument that can be tuned. It is
Your,
not an anchor.
your grandmother passes away. I'm so sorry, but she left you a concert grand Steinway piano, which is super long. So you have a choice to make first. Should I take it and put it in my living room and move out all the furniture and just have a piano? And so you decide, yes, I'm going to get rid of all my furniture and I'm going to put that piano in my living room. Now you have another choice, which is even more important. Am I going to learn to play it, or am I going to make a frame holder? We've grown up and we've gotten so used to the voices we have, the voices we don't like, the voices that are not helping us make the communication that's giving us the life we want. And we don't realize it's just because nobody gave us a manual how to train the voice, train the instrument like any other instrument. So it's not about why you should change your voice. It's understanding that your voice is not actually giving you the life that you want. If your voice isn't working for you, you are not as human as you should be, because humanity is based on being able to communicate from emotion to emotion. And if you can't use your voice to connect with people because your voice is keeping them at a distance, if you can't use your voice to get the job you want, if you can't use your voice to create the relationships that you want, if you can't use your voice so that you feel confident about yourself, how is it even possible to have dreams and then achieve those dreams? So vocal power is life power. And it's as simple as training the instrument. That's what I've learned. I've worked with the most successful voices in the world for decades. And I've taught them that there are frequencies, there are sounds that everyone needs to use to showcase the best of themselves. You know, years ago, how IQ was such a big deal. You believed it unless you were born a genius. My mother told me, I'm sorry, you weren't born a genius. I don't know what's going to happen with you. Thank God you have a voice. But I felt bad about not being born a genius on some IQ test that I didn't even remember taking, or if I ever took it. But that was the big thing. If you're smart, you can have the life you want. You can be successful and happy. But there's no way to really, no matter how books you read, to change your IQ level. And then years later, there was this thing called EQ, emotional intelligence. And they said, forget about that IQ. You're not that smart. But you could be emotional. You could showcase your emotions or be good at listening to other people and telling and deciding whether they're telling you the truth or not. And unfortunately, with all of that hullabaloo about emotional intelligence, nobody ever came up with a method to teach it to people so that everybody would be emotionally intelligent. So then years later, I came along and said, IQ's fun if you got it. EQ's fun, but nobody's teaching it. What you need is VQ, vocal intelligence, so that you use your voice to showcase how smart you are, how kind you are, how loving you are. VQ, vocal intelligence, is the voice of EQ, because you use your voice to show how you really feel, and you listen for the right sounds of emotions in the people that you're listening to. So VQ is way more important than IQ or EQ, because, as I said, the conversations, your voice, is establishing your place in the world.
That's amazing and so true. Now, there's a 19-minute and 30-second track that we released today in Ignite. And every day in the morning, I suspect, people are going to want to use this product. They're going to be going through an exercise. Can you just walk through, because you shared with me, some of the reasons, the mouth positioning of some of the vowels that we're doing? Because we don't explain this on the track. The track would be an hour long if we had to. But if you could go from the goog, maybe to the nay, into the no and the
Let me explain that.
that would be helpful.
The great speaking and singing happens when the right amount of air meets the right amount of vocal cord. So the air comes up to the vocal cords, and the job of the vocal cords is actually to stop the air. So there's pressure that happens when air comes up to the cords. And then the air says, I really want to get through and get out. And the chords say, well, not on my watch. You're not invited to this party. And then more air builds up and the chords have more pressure and then more. And eventually the chords can't handle it anymore. And the air goes right through the chords and comes out of the mouth. So this interplay of what's the position of the vocal cords and how much air is trying to get through the vocal cords, that's what helps create great sound. Okay? So the exercises from start to finish put the vocal cords in a place where they can handle a little bit of air. And then they can handle a little bit more air. And then a little bit more air and a little bit more air and more volume and more volume and more thickness. So that's what the exercises do. And each of the sounds that I chose creates that balance of where the chords are and where the air is supposed to go to, so that then you end up with a voice that goes from low to high, and you have control over what's happening with the air and control over what the vocal cords are. And then you have no pressure, no strain, and you can go all the way up and down the range and use all of those sounds to craft communications, conversations that are amazing, and you sound amazing.
There's a command, there's a confidence, there's a quietness. So with the oxygen of the exercise, with the stretching and the gymnastics of the vocal cords, and all the things that are happening, when I'm done with 19 minutes and 30 seconds, my day just seems like it's going to be significantly better than it was 20 minutes ago. I do feel like I have a command over my thought patterns. I do feel endorphins and dopamine and cool things happening biochemically, but I feel really liberated here. And it's interesting is that the voice feels liberated, but the mind feels liberated too. That connective tissue, the voice, VQ, IQ, and the EQ, all of it's connected. But when I'm done, I feel amazing and I feel prepared for anything. When do you think we should do this exercise? What time of day would you recommend?
You should do it in the morning. You don't have to do it first thing, but you should do it in the morning. You should do it before you head out to have all the conversations you're going to have for the day. Before a runner stretches before they try to run and have any chance of winning the race. They would never. A dancer stretches before they would ever dance. If you don't stretch, you don't win the race. You hurt yourself when you dance. But because we weren't given a manual of how to use our voice and train it as an instrument, we go out into the day and we think that the voice will just warm up by itself, that just magically the right sounds will come out, or the right air will happen, or the right position of the mouth and the lips and the tongue, and the air will vibrate where it's supposed to, and the sound will be amazing. It doesn't work that way. You actually have to warm up your voice. And when you're warming up your voice, it's resetting your breathing patterns, which is oxygenating your blood. It's setting the pace of your heartbeat and getting you and the calmness that is associated with the specific speed we do the exercises. As the sounds go from chest to middle to head, it's actually sending air and vibrations all through your body that awaken different parts of your body. John Gray, who wrote the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, which is for many years was the number one best-selling book aside from the Bible. The Bible sold a lot because people believe in God, but also they believe in relationships. So Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And he, before he was an author, he was a celibate monk for about 10 years. And all he would do all day was meditate. And after he took a few lessons with me, he stayed with me for a long time, but after he took a couple lessons, he said, Roger, I consider myself a professional meditation expert. I mean, sometimes I will meditate and travel the world and the universe in about 10 hours. But by doing your vocal warm-ups, I can get into that meditative state in about 15 minutes. What used to take me 10 hours of meditation. So it's just, again, this is the blend of science and human capability of voice put together to really get your brain and your body and your breath set up to go out and open up your mouth and make things happen because people will listen to what makes them feel good. And people will shut out what makes them sad or makes them angry or disconnects us. So, I was lucky enough over the last couple of years to speak at the United Nations 3 times. Once as the keynote speaker on Earth Day and 2 other times. And the idea is, why are you at the United Nations, Roger? And I said, well, because I've always had this very simple goal. I'm trying to save the world one voice at a time, because we won't agree on politics or religion or so many other things we could disagree on. But if we all agreed on the sounds of emotions and we could authentically communicate emotionally with one another, we would have to get together. And you know this, but I'm going to say, the brain processes spoken communication first for emotion and then for logic. And we were told lies. We were told that the way to communicate is by learning the right words. If I had the right words to say, you would kiss me on the mouth. You would date me. We would get married. My kids would listen to me. My boss and the rest of the team would listen to my ideas. If I had the right words, I could be influential and successful and happy and eventually retire in Florida. But it's not about the words, because the words are logical. And when I speak to you, the first part that sound goes into is the amygdala. And the language of the amygdala is emotion. What specific emotion? Sounds. So if I'm talking to someone and I say, I love my wife, I hate my wife, I love golf, I hate golf, then the amygdala says, we don't know how you feel about your wife or golf. So we're not going to bother to pass that information to the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that processes it, that takes action upon it. If you connect the right sounds to those words, the communication goes boom, right past the amygdala into the prefrontal cortex. You're immediately talking to someone and they are connected to you brain-wise, emotion-wise. They believe you, they trust you, they feel things when you say it. How do you get more human than that? You want to make yourself AI-proof in a world where you think AI is taking over everything? I'm going to lose my job to AI. I'm going to lose everything. Nobody's going to want me. Be more human. AI can't perceive emotions and then respond appropriately emotionally. Humans can. We do that with voice.
And we know, don't we, through science validating the connective tissue of the vocal cords to the vagus nerve, an expression of your nervous system and your health. So the anecdote that we use is, hey, if your mom's still alive and she called you right now and she was histrionic, within a nanosecond, you know this. If she's elated, she just won Publishers Clearinghouse, only to find out that they're now bankrupt. She goes from high to low, you know in a nanosecond. So there's so much connective tissue here. The triangle of what we've accomplished with this collaboration is fascinating. The science side, we already know the connection of the laryngeal nerve to the vocal cords to the vagus nerve, and the expression of our voice is a direct correlation to the health of our nervous system and our cellular resilience. Now we can take a track, 19 minutes and 30 seconds, a great explanation, only 3 minutes and 30 seconds of our magic physics formula in 40 hertz to elevate you, and then you walking through these exercises to allow us to connect, grow, and command our voice, which further commands the strength and resilience of our nervous system. This is all related in a triangle. It is so fascinating. I'm so excited about this collaboration. I'm excited about the other triangle, the power trio, Tony Robbins, Jim Kwik, and Roger Lowe. Guess what? They're all connected as well. We can change the state of your brain by effectively modulating the frequency of your brain wave. That's what we do. That's what NuCalm does. Then we can add in the complexity, the power, the breath, the vocal cords, the nasality, the Adam's apple, all the physiology of the voice, so that I can express myself in the manner that I deserve to express myself and have an intimate connection through vibration like a tuning fork to the people who are receiving my message. This is absolutely amazing to me.
Someday, I mean, we understand that certain sounds heal things, change cells, structure, release chemicals into the brain. We understand that how sound works. What we don't understand is that the sounds we make are so powerful that we actually are generating the sounds that are making ourselves healthy or not healthy. And when people listen to us, they're making them healthy and not healthy. Soon you will be able to say to me, Roger, I have a headache. And I say, Jim, do this. Say, ah, 6 times. And then say, la, 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 la. And then you do that and your headache's gone. So we're not at that level, but we know the power of voice and sound and how it affects the body and how it affects everybody that you're speaking with. And besides, when you do the warm-ups, it's fun. It's fun. A lot of people think they're tone deaf. A lot of people were told by their choir teachers, oh, you, Jimmy, just open your mouth like this. But don't actually try to sing. Just lip sync, Jimmy. Lip sync. Or they were told, I'm sorry, you can't be in the choir because you're tone deaf. Less than 2% of the population is tone deaf from some damage they would have to their middle ear when they were little. The rest of the population is tone unaware. I want to make everyone's voice like music. I want people to open up their mouths, and the people that they're talking to think that, wow, that person is speaking my favorite song, and I think I want to sing along. I like that person, and that person makes me feel happy. That person makes me feel energized. I want to be in a room with that person. I want that person to talk to me more. That creates friends. That creates relationships. That makes you feel great about yourself. This is the tipping point of an iceberg that will soon show people how powerful their voices are to affect every single thing that's happening in their lives on a daily basis.
Yes, it will. So, ladies and gentlemen, today, September 23rd, 2025, we have launched a historic collaboration where we're combining patented neuroscience underneath in a very deft, we went with a less is more approach, but the less is more is a perfect augmentation to what we're trying to accomplish. And the subtleties that we can express through neuroscience, which you can't hear, we're actually elevating and making it feel like there's something important happening and allows you to pay more attention to the emotion of the actual exercise. So that's been fun for us. But this partnership, this is the beginning of a lot of things we're going to do together. This isn't the first and only track we're releasing. So, Roger, welcome to the NuCalm family. Welcome to this collaboration. We are honored and so excited to have you as part of our family. And the fact that we can help each other through relaxation or through sleep or the science side, but the vocal side in addition, this is an amazing advancement for all of us and all of mankind, and certainly for the people that are tuned in to what we're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a treat and a journey. Soon you'll be singing with pride. Soon your family won't say, hey, use that in the shower or, go for a walk and do that. They won't, because you will establish a confidence in your voice you never had. It's like a rebirth. I'm 56 years old and I'm like, wow, I can sing. I could never sing. I didn't know how to sing. I can sing. So thank you, Roger. You're a gift. You're a gentleman, a scholar, and an amazing voice coach, and we're thrilled to have you. Any last words for you, Mr. Roger Love?
Just have fun with those warm-ups. Just have fun. Just imagine that you're on stage and those sounds coming out of your mouth, and imagine that there's people in the audience and you're not scared of them because they love the sounds that are coming out of your mouth. Imagine walking into a room and you were so afraid of giving a speech because public speaking is still listed as the #1 fear in America. Imagine if you never had that fear. Imagine if you felt so confident about your voice as an instrument that every time you open up your mouth, You already knew how people were going to feel about you and the things you say. We want to give you that experience. That's how you eliminate fear. That's how you create unlimited opportunities. So thanks for believing in me when I said, hey, we should collaborate. And thank you for being an incredible company and made up of unbelievable people. And sky's the limit of what we're going to do. But right now, we just want people to have fun with it and just let yourself enjoy it as the performer you are and the person you are and the emotional being that you are all learns to come out of your mouth and change your life.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you can find this inside Ignite, Voice Coaching with Roger Love. Enjoy it, express yourself, grow. Much love to everybody. Take care of yourselves.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in.